Have you ever wondered how to achieve this effect on a website where you can drag items around the screen and play with them, but you never knew how to do it? I'm going to show you how to do this today using Framer, which is a no-code website builder that is very easy to use, and it literally takes just a few minutes. So let me show you. The first thing you want to do is select all of the objects that you want to be playing around with and make sure that they are all set to absolute here on type section on the right hand side. And after that, we're going to basically set up the drag effect, and I'm going to show you now what each of these settings are for. But before we start playing around to see what these options are all about, let's see what the default options offer. So the freeform and snapback already are enabled for you. And then there's a transition. So let's see what that does. And so you click on preview. And when you drag the objects around, you can drag them as far as you want on the screen. But when you release it, they fall back into the original position. So they snap back into where they were originally. So let's get out of the preview mode and come back to the drag effect options. And let's start playing around with this. So let's remove the snapback and see what happens now after we have disabled it. As you can see, when you disable that option, there's a new one here called momentum, and it's preset as disabled. Let's see what that does. Now, when you start playing with them, you can see that there is indeed a momentum going on. So if you get carried away, you can see how they're going to get lost outside of the frame, and then you can even make them all disappear. If this is the effect you're looking for, that's perfect. Otherwise, I'm going to show you how to make sure that all of them stay within the frame that you have set up for them. If you want to stop the objects from flying around like that and getting lost into the ether, all you need to do is set up a constraint. How to do that? So select the objects again and disable freeform. Because freeform, when it's enabled, you can move the objects around in any way. And so if you already have momentum applied as well, then that means they just fly out of the screen. So by disabled freeform, you're going to see this new option called sections. At the moment, we don't have any sections set up, but I'm going to show you how to do this. Your objects, they basically live within a frame, right? And if they don't live within a frame, make sure to place them into a frame. And so what you need to do with that frame now, by selecting it, go to scroll section and give it a name. I'm just going to call it Dropbox. And I'm going to select the objects again. And now you're going to see that the section is already selected because it's the only one available. And what that does, if we go into the browser and refresh, you can see that now they're not going to leave that square. And if you change the shape of that frame, then they're not going to be able to move out of that frame that you have set up for them. When it comes to the transition options, you can play around with this to see which one suits you best. I'm going to set this up to half and this to half as well to see what the difference is. And I'm going to hit publish and go straight to the browser to see this live. Now, when I do the same thing, you can see that the behavior is different. It's almost like it's bouncing more, and that applies to all of them, basically. So I recommend you play around with these numbers to see what suits you best, depending on what effect you want to achieve. I'm just going to leave it as it was and hit publish again. And if you want to make this effect even more interesting and more realistic, we're going to add an extra effect, which is press. So you select all of the objects and then head on to effects and then click on press. And here you can see that you can change the opacity, the scale, rotation. What I recommend you do is that you change the scale to something bigger, like 1.1, and rotate it slightly. What I would do as well is select random objects and give them a different value so that they feel more natural when they are selected. And I'm going to show you now what this does. When you refresh the browser and once you click on an object, you can see that it gets bigger and it rotates, and that makes it more interesting and more realistic because it's almost as if you were grabbing something in real life and it becomes a little bit bigger and it basically moves a bit. So you can make the rotation bigger, you can make it smaller as well when you press. So I recommend you play around with all of the settings and check which options suit you best for whatever you're trying to achieve. And this is basically it. All you need to do now is play around with everything, use your imagination, and make your website more interesting without having to spend hours or a lot of work to, add a little bit of interactions here and there without cluttering. I would say do not abuse this, because if you add too many effects and too many things are going on your website, then the whole point can get missed. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was fun and easy to do. And if you want to share in the comments your work, I would love to see it. So share questions and ideas in the comments. I'm going to be reading you. Thank you so much. See you in the next one.